A lot of music producers don't even know what altered dominant chords are, but they're one of the best ways to add classy, rich sounding chord voicings to your music. In this video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to play them on the Midi keyboards. And if you don't have a Midi keyboard in your studio or you prefer the piano roll, it's still really easy to use these chords in your music. So in the key of C, I start here with a D minor chord, a G major chord, this is the 5 chord, and then I resolve to the 1 chord. Once you learn how to do this, you're already well on your way to learning how to play something a little more interesting. For instance, I could take these triads and extend them, and then when I go to my 5 chord, my fingers really naturally resolve to the 1 chord. Again, 2 chord, 5 chord, and the 1 chord. And that works really well because I'm not over relying on root position chords, which a lot of times we can run into that, especially when you're working on just the piano roll. This is a really great way to get used to using inversions. The altered dominant chord is a really simple idea. You're just changing one or more notes in that 5 chord, that G7 chord that I played earlier. And in particular, it's usually the 5th or the 9th interval of that chord that gets altered. And the 5th for us is right there. Now what I like to do is raise it. This is just one type of altered dominant chord because you could also lower the 5th, you could have a raised 9th or a flat 9 in this chord as well, and some combination of those intervals as well. But I tend to find the raised 5th has a very musical sound because this note really wants to resolve to E in the 1 chord. So now I put it together, and here's the sound with the altered dominant chord. So you might notice this is adding like a little bit of tension in between those 2 chords, resolving from the 2 to the 1 chord. And just that little difference, that one note change, can make a huge difference in your music. What's also really special about this is if you can learn to play it with just one hand, specifically your left hand, you can add melodies with the right and start incorporating other kinds of melodies that aren't just based off of one given scale, which is another thing that music producers can really benefit from. So for instance, when I play this chord progression, I can start experimenting with melodies with my right hand. So I'll bring my chords over here. So all those little fun improvisations that I can do are a lot more realistic because also with my right hand, I don't have to be a piano expert. I'm just looking at all the white keys with my right hand, and I'm incorporating this note right here, this altered tone in the melody. And in particular, because to a C chord, this would be the minor 3rd or the sharp 9. It really works well as sort of a bluesy note. So in the chords, it provides a little bit of tension and release. And in the right hand, it provides sort of a bluesy sound to the melodies. And that's also a really fun thing to improvise with your hands. Even if you're a beginner on the piano, this is still super realistic to get used to during an afternoon of just messing around, right? But even if you don't have a Midi keyboard in your music studio right now, or this style of playing still feels a little intimidating to you, you can totally do this right in your DAW on the piano roll. There's a bunch of different ways to do it and write with it, and I'm going to show you those now. Similar to what we just did on the keyboards, you can see the notes of the chords we played, D, F, and A, and the main thing being this D sharp that should be in your G7 chord. And you can notice how the tones are also kind of close together, similar to how we played them on the keyboards. You can kind of basically refer to this as good voice leading or good chord voicings that lead into each other, so you don't have these big jumps in pitch. And what I like to do for my Patreon members is just create several different variations of this based on simple triad voicings, but also the thicker chord extension voicings. So here we have an example of something that's a little more fleshed out. You could see it's kind of similar to what we were doing when we were just improvising on the piano. The chords on the left hand would be down here, and some kind of melody top line idea is dancing around on top of those chords. And it's really cool. Even a little MIDI clip like this can produce a really nice, classy sounding piano part, which works really well in different genres. So you can see just a little clip like this has a really nice sound. And also what I try to do is add on different variations that work into one another. So here's another one. And here you can see I make my melodies have some kind of octave sequence to them, which provides a lot more articulation and definition in the melody on top of those nice, lush, mid-rangey chords. And again, that little D sharp right there just adds that little tone of class and sophistication to this sound, which is really nice. Here's another one. So those MIDI clips work really well for that sort of mid-range, kind of lo-fi beats style template. But I find when I slow this sound down a lot more, you get a much more classic sounding part, especially if you do use a piano, because you can really relish the sound of that altered dominant chord. Same octave idea. So you can notice how when we slow it down, that altered dominant chord adds this very rich dissonance. And when you resolve it in a really nice way like that, it just creates this classic sound. That is the sound of a lot of those classic piano samples we try to pull from records. But of course, a lot of those records are copywritten. So if you're trying to make beats, I highly recommend checking out the altered dominant chord. It provides that sound. All right, you guys, I'm going to end it there. I hope you found this video super useful and inspiring. If you're watching on YouTube right now, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you see more of my content in your feed. And if you like the clips that I create, I have a whole essential chord progressions library of MIDI assets I create for my Patreon audience. It's something I love to do. We're up to over 500 assets at the time of this video. So definitely check that out. There's a link in the description below. And yeah, guys, as always, have fun making music.